Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ice Cold Takes podcast. I'm your host, Joey DeMeglio. The New York Rangers have traded Artemi Panarin to the Los Angeles Kings. It's the first big move since the letter was announced. They did trade Carson Soucy. We went over that last week. But Panarin is gone. He's in LA. He's extended. I'm joined by Matt and Evan from Ranger Central to help me talk about this because this is very frustrating. This will probably be, just warning you guys right now, this will probably be the happiest any of us will be on this episode is right now. Boys, how we doing?
I just don't care anymore, really. I'm so glad that the Olympics are here. We have 3 weeks away from this bullshit, and then it's only 25 more games left of this season. So I'm glad about that. The only problem is I say that 25 games, and then I look at the next 9 years of potentially what this organization is going to do, and I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be pretty, guys. It ain't going to be pretty at all. But yeah, happy to be here. A lot to talk about.
Yeah, great to be back. This team is a dumpster fire. There's really no sugarcoating it. I voiced my frustration so much about the Panarin thing over the past 2 days to where you're probably not going to get me as frustrated today. I say that now and then I probably will. But I'm probably not going to be as frustrated as I've been the past 2 days because I'm in the stage now where I'm just more depressed that this is where we are. And it's not really the fact that I didn't expect any of this because I knew this was coming. It's really the fact that they find new ways to amaze me of the delusion and just find new ways to lower my expectations because I did not have high expectations with the Panarin trade and they couldn't even meet those. And that's the disappointing part.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, like Matt said, there's so many things that we could pick apart here. And this whole thing is very frustrating because it's kind of similar to the summer when Trouba got traded and we're all being gaslit into thinking like, oh no, we're thinking wrong. We're wrong as fans for, saying Panarin should have gotten more. No, he had a no movement clause. Like none of us are saying that he had no right to use his no movement clause. He absolutely had every right to use that. All of us love Panarin as a player. I mean, I did. One of the greatest Rangers of all time. Best free agent signing, hands down, bar none. Best free agent signing in Rangers franchise history. A long history at that, 100 years. And they've never had a player come close to the production that Panarin has done over the last 6.5 seasons. So to see him go for one prospect and a third-round pick while retaining 50% of his contract, and on top of that, gets signed to a 2-year extension is just a slap in the face because what this tells me, I was talking a little bit about this on Evan's show. The retool, the language, the discourse that Drury used in his letter, this tells me that 2 to 3 years, he doesn't think the Rangers are going to be that good. Because if they were, he would have signed Panarin. That's the salary he got on that deal, $11 million per, tells me he's not slowing down anytime soon. So if the Rangers are really going to be competitive with this retool, 2 to 3 years, right? That they would need Panarin. But they didn't sign him. So that's telling me this is going to take way longer than that. So this is not a retool. This is a rebuild. And on top of that, I mentioned this on Evan's show, the prospect they got is nowhere near ready to play in the NHL. He's 19 years old or 20, just turned 20. He's still in the OHL. He's still in juniors. He's not ready for the NHL. And even if he is, the Rangers are probably just going to bury him on the fourth or the third line next to some scrubs and never give him ice time because that's how they develop their players. This is just the scraping the surface of what is making me so angry about this whole entire process. Can someone back me up here?
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about the entire thing. I mean, we broke down so many layers about the trade. And another thing that really kind of stuck in my head, kind of building off your point of why not just sign Panarin to the 2 years if this is allegedly a retool. this also goes back to the conversation of if you were not willing to go 2 years for Panarin, why were you not having conversations about moving him in the summer? Because clearly then you never had intentions of keeping him around. So that's why, and I've been saying it for a while, the retool, the letter, this whole thing is nothing but a fable. Like anyone that believes in this is just swimming in delusion. And you got to scratch your head on this one because I don't understand how you could sit here and believe this general manager that's notorious for lying. And you're seeing it right in front of our eyes. I mean, yesterday, Othman and Morrow are scratched, despite in the letter saying we want to build around our core guys and young players. We're being told the biggest lie in the world. And all this letter did, and I brought this up on my stream last night, is all this is Chris Drury having an out to James Dolan for the next 2 to 3 years, because if they're bad, he could just say, well, we're retooling right now. So that's why we're bad right now. It's going to take a little bit. Rome wasn't built a day, as Dolan said on WFAN, and it's just going to keep him around for longer. But, by this miracle, they land a top pick, and that top pick is a franchise altering talent, and they tread water a bit. Drury could be like, oh, look at the work I did. So there's really not a light at the end of the tunnel here. Because even if they did land one of those generational talents, it's one player. That's not going to fix all the other deficiencies. And this team's going to, be a wild card team at best then at that point. So I don't know anymore. All I know is that, again, just to the main root of the conversation here, if you were not going to give Panarin 2 years, why are you not moving him during the summer and having conversations in August? Because you have more time to find more suitors. Maybe Panarin's willing to explore other destinations versus the lie that we're told that he only wanted LA. And then most importantly, other teams could make their cap flexibility open up a little bit to make it work. So maybe Florida or Tampa Bay could actually make it work.
Yeah. That's another point. That's another point there. Why didn't you trade Panarin in the offseason? That's a big one. If it was only 2 years. And the reports all over the place. Someone saying he wants 5 years, he wants $50 million. How does he settle for $28 million less than what he asked for? That doesn't make any sense. The fact that all the reports are saying he wants to go to like the South, he wants to go to Florida or stay on the East Coast. How does he end up in LA? And how has no one provided a single reason other than, he talked to Gavrikov in the locker room, so that's why he's going to LA. Why LA? What is so good about them? I want to know that. Like, I'm not bashing Panarin. I want to know, like, what was, why them over all the other teams? He does not have a chance to win the cup with LA. I'm sorry. If they face Colorado or Edmonton, they're going to get slaughtered. It's not going to be close. He would have been better off going to Florida or Tampa Bay. And then people will say, they didn't have the cap flexibility to do it. They could make it work. They have bad contracts that they could flip. The Rangers can retain salary. They're not going to be competitive. They're going to use their cap space to the advantage. So miss me with that. That's all bullshit. That's all BS. I can't take. They're the only team that could do it easily. How many teams have you seen? How many teams have you seen, like, make ends meet, move heaven and earth to make stuff happen? How many? What? Because it's the Rangers? This doesn't happen. It's the Rangers because he's got a no movement clause. So now you got to pay pennies on the dollar. What happened with Claude Giroux when he got traded? Everyone knew he was going to get traded a few years ago, and he got a haul. He got a first, a third, and their best prospect, who is now a staple in that Flyers lineup. So I'm like completely lost with all this reporting stuff from whether it's Vince, Molly, Saravalli, anybody. Adam Schefter was the person that broke this trade. I don't get it. I'm still mad about all this.
Yeah, look, for me, and this is just going back to the original point, like what we've been talking about the last couple weeks, that letter, that PR damage control letter, it was all a bunch of bullshit. Every single word, every single paragraph was complete bullshit. And everyone can come out here, Molly, Vince, every NHL insider, they can go over here and tell us that, oh, Drury had his hands tied behind his back. He couldn't do anything. He had to settle with the best offer. I say bullshit. And we all say bullshit. You know why? Because when it's clear that you're not going to re-sign your star player, you don't tell the whole league that you're going to trade him. It's simple negotiation tactics. Like, even, and we were talking about this just before we went live, guys. Even if the rest of the teams in the league have even a small little inkling that you're going to trade him, you still don't say it, because right away you kill all your leverage. All these picks you could have asked for, these better prospects you could have asked for, boom, it was done right there. And listen, this even goes back to the other point of, because like you guys are talking about, with the whole Panarin 2 years, $22 million contract extension. Look, for me, I've always said it, and I know Evan shares the same sentiment. We would have moved on from Panarin after that 2024 Eastern Conference final run, because it was clear that this team, this group, they had to go in another direction. They could not afford to run it back. And, okay, cool, fine. And like we said, this goes back to the original point of the 2-year contract extension. If you are not willing to give Panarin that 2-year contract extension, like what Evan said, you trade him at the start of the year. But we all know why Panarin was not traded at the beginning of the year, right? Because, and again, this goes back to last year, because they decided to sign Igor to that massive extension. They decided to trade JT Miller. So Drury was like, you know what? I'm kind of going to half-ass it. We can't really now go in the other direction because we already committed all these money to these two guys. So let me keep Panarin and let's, try to, salvage maybe something. Let's try to get into the playoffs. And that backfired, like we all pretty much thought it was going to backfire. Maybe some of us thought that, they had a chance to make it the playoffs. For me, I always felt going into this year that they were the 5th or 6th best team in the Metro at best. I did not expect them to make it to the playoffs. Panarin should have been moved at the start of the season, because you could have got the most for him. And not only could you have gotten the most for him, because at that point you didn't already tell the entire league that you were going to trade him, but to the point that Evan brought up before, more teams would have been able to trade for him, because those other teams like Tampa, like Florida, their cap situation wouldn't have been as bad. And it's more easy to maneuver around the cap in the summertime than it is in the middle of the winter in February, heading into an Olympic roster freeze. And again, this always goes back to the point where Chris Drury overplays his hand, because if you go back to 2024, after they got eliminated by Florida, like I said, that was the time to move up from the core, because I'm telling you, if you wanted to trade Kreider, who was coming off of 3 consecutive 30-goal or more seasons, you could have gotten really good value from him. And Artemi Panarin coming off a 120-point season, his career high in points. Yes, and obviously, look, you have to get him to move to waive his no-move clause. I 100% understand that. But if you told them that, we're looking to go in another direction, we don't really value you, you could have gotten to possibly waive his no move. Again, it's not a guarantee that it would have happened, but that's something that they should have explored. And I mean, compare it. Like, they got rid of Kreider, they got rid of Panarin, they got back 2 third-round picks, Liam Greentree and Carey Terrence, who has 6 or 7 points in the AHL. I mean, like, seriously, what are we like? It just goes back to Drury does not know what he's doing as a general manager. And again, all these quotes in the press conference saying that, it's a retool, but we don't really have a timeline or expectation of when we're going to get better. Yeah, you don't know when you're going to get better because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're lucky to have a job at this point, because I swear to God, if this was any other organization, Chris Drury would have been fired already. But for some odd reason, James Dolan has an asphyxiation for him. Like, I do not get it. I am completely lost, and this franchise for me is just, they are heading down a dark path.
There's still people defending Drury. Like, I used to defend him. Like, this goes back to like when they didn't trade for Gensel. Like, we didn't know. I didn't know for sure what the offer was, but it doesn't matter. He still should have moved heaven and earth to get the guy. It doesn't matter what it was. Whether it was reported that he included Othman and Pro, or if he didn't want to include Kakko, whether, doesn't matter. He should have did everything. He should have put all 3 in. But if the case is, Carolina preferred Pittsburgh's package over the Rangers, then so be it. And I doubt that would have been the case, because if you put all 3 of those and a first-round pick, you're getting the guy. I'm sorry. But you tell the entire league, all right, we are not extending you, Panarin. You're open for business, right? There is no way you could bluff now. It's out in the open. LA's got you by the balls. They got you by the balls. So when LA figures out that Panarin is only wants to go there, and the reason they know that is because Panarin's agent was in direct communication with every single team that was interested in him. They knew that was the only team he would play for, that he wanted to go to. So they're gonna call Drury's bluff. Like, no, if Drury decides, let me wait it out past the Olympics, see if I could get more for him. LA's gonna call bullshit because they know they're not gonna want to lose. The Rangers aren't gonna want to lose him for nothing in the offseason. So they're going to trade him, and it's going to be a worse offer after the break. It really won't get much better. It's going to either stay the same or get worse, and it's only going to be from LA. So this is what we got. Either you take this or you're going to lose him for nothing. So they gave Drury the finger. They have him by the balls, and that's it. That's how the trade went down. So I'm still lost as to why Panarin chose LA over a number of different places. He could have gone to Utah. He could have gone to Seattle. I heard they had some big offers for him, like in terms of like a contract and an extension. I totally understand where Panarin's coming from for that. I'm not arguing with him about that because it just seems that the media is like, oh, wow, no one understands the power of the no movement clause. When the fuck did we say that? None of us said that. We all understand. Yeah, these guys, they play their ass off. They earn these no movement clauses, these no trade clauses. Yes, they work it into their contract. That is a right. The players deserve that. We're saying that Chris Drury is an idiot for overplaying his hand. We're saying that the way this whole situation went down is stupid. Drury got completely fleeced because of his ineptitude, and for no reason other than himself. So we're still going to say that the trade is completely one-sided. If you're an LA fan, you're dancing around naked in the streets. You're celebrating because you got this guy not just for this year's run, but for next year and the following year. So after Kopitar retires, you got another scorer to complement Kempe. You know, this is a good move for Los Angeles. Good for them. It sucks for us. It really, really does. I don't know how people are defending this. Evan, you had something. You brought up a comparison on your stream. Why don't you tell us about that and what people were saying?
Which comparison with the
Drew one?
The Drew one?
Yes.
Yeah, how Claude Giroux, I mean, everyone in the world knew this guy only wanted to be a Florida Panther. There are articles you could dig up, which Joey D gave me a little homework assignment to do before the live stream here, where Pierre LeBrun was talking about how they didn't want to negotiate a contract until potentially after the season, the Giroux and the Flyers, that is. And then there was plenty of articles you could dig through that say Chuck Fletcher at his hands tied. He only wanted to be a Florida Panther. And believe it or not, in one of the articles that I read up on from Brian Murphy, he said that, oh, well, this is underwhelming for a return for Claude Giroux. That's considered underwhelming. Owen Tippett, a first and a third, is considered underwhelming. But with Drury, everyone's saying, oh, well, his hands were tied. That's great. Maybe because he did that to himself. Maybe because Chris Drury tied his own hands by rushing this in a 2-week span for no reason. Hold him until the trade deadline, and maybe he has a change of heart about if the thing's true about only wanting to be in LA, which, again, I don't buy it. But if we're going to sit here, play pretend, and believe that, then maybe at the deadline he has a change of heart and you could move him to a different destination. Or LA gets desperate and says, you know what, we really need this piece to put us over the top. We'll give whatever we need to get this deal done. You got to play hardball. But instead, the even worse part, the most asinine part about all of this is what we're hearing from, I believe it was Elliot Freeman or Chris Johnson, one of those two, how Chris Drury wanted to be Mr. Nice Guy this time and wanted to move Panarin before the Olympic break, before the roster freeze, because he didn't want to fight with another player. it's so funny to me that he did all this stuff with Jacob Trouba, Barkley Goudreau, and all of them. And now I said this in my stream yesterday. Not only did the GM suck with no pressure on him, now he's basically walking on eggshells that he is operating with the mindset of, I don't want to fight Panarin, so we're going to move him now. And then we're already seeing with Trocheck how Trocheck wants to be out east still. So there you go. Drury's going to want to be Mr. Nice Guy again and only move Trocheck within the east. Maybe you could get him in the Central Division. But it just...
Carson Soucy too there, Evan.
Yes.
He moved it because I mean, that one, okay. I get that one a little bit.
It's still ridiculous. You got to get the best return possible. Like, I'm sorry. It's so dumb, this whole now all of a sudden you want to be Mr. Nice Guy thing. Who cares? The whole notion that Drury was a bad guy because, Trouba has a family. Cool. Alex Wenberg and his wife had a kid right as they were traded to New York. And no one said a damn word.
Right.
But when the Rangers do something for whatever reason, the media's got to cover it and make them a villain for all of this. And now Drury has to play Mr. Nice Guy, and that's what's even worse.
Right. And same thing with the Trouba thing. None of us were complaining about his no movement clause. We were complaining about the reports. Everyone was saying like, oh, you guys don't understand. He's got a no movement clause. No, he doesn't. He has a modified no trade clause now. It is July 1st. He does not have that power anymore. And everyone just seemed to forgot that. And the gaslighting is insane. That is my biggest pet peeve out of everything is gaslighting. Tell me something. You're telling me something like, oh, you don't know that? You don't know that? What are you talking about? I don't get the reporter sometimes. Like, we originally thought that the Rangers reporters were getting fed like bad information. Now I kind of feel like, okay, maybe Panarin did want to go to LA. I don't know why. No one could give me a straight answer why. But that just seems on the Rangers side of things, that's what seems to be the case. Everyone else in the league seems to be shocked by that. It's kind of all over the place here. I want to kind of backtrack a little bit to what Matt was saying earlier about how the Rangers could have moved on from Panarin and Kreider and like all those other guys. Like that, the Rangers needed to make a Huberdeau kind of trade or Huberdeau Tkachuk kind of trade, and they needed to make a Brassard for Zibanejad type trade. If you remember when the Rangers moved on from Brassard, we all loved him. He was a great player, had many great years with the Rangers. Very, very memorable player. One of my favorites. Big game performer in the playoffs. Big game brass, they called him. They needed to move on from him. They got someone younger, and Zibanejad turned into the better player. And that was a trade the Rangers completely won. They needed to do more of those kinds of trades. That's the thing I think Matt and Evan have been saying, banging the drum at for years, that a lot of people haven't understood. Am I right here?
Yeah.
And then the Panarin trade, that would have been a complete shock at the time, because coming off of a 120-point season, if they had to do that for Brady Tkachuk, I mean, dude, you got to sign me up for that.
Yeah, I mean, but look, everyone was shocked when Florida traded Jonathan Huberdeau after having a heart level season, and they trade him. Everyone kind of points and laughs at Florida because it's like, oh, what are they doing? Why are they trading, Jonathan Huberdeau? He just had, similar 120-point season, Hart candidate. They just won the President's Trophy. Like, what exactly is Bill Zito doing here? And then we look back, and then sure, they're going to miss the playoffs this year probably because of injuries. And that's actually, they are one of the actual teams that could use injuries to their excuse, not like what Chris Drury is doing and blaming his piss poor roster management and construction on injuries. No, Florida actually has an actual excuse because the last 3 years they have represented the Eastern Conference in the Stanley Cup Finals, lost to Vegas because they were depleted with injuries, and then they absolutely cakewalked two straight Stanley Cups back-to-back years. Not cakewalk against the Oilers per se, but they pretty much to the East. They had an easy run per se, basically, dismantling everybody. But still, they got the job done. They won 2 Stanley Cups. Sometimes you have to make the hard decision to get the better outcome. And yes, some people might point at you and laugh at you and question you, but you know what? If you actually believe in yourself and you stick to your guns, you make that move. Similarly to like again, we're going to compare baseball here, but everyone, go back a couple months. Everyone was hating on David Stearns. They were pointing at, what are you doing? How could you dismantle this team? And he said, I don't care, because you know why? Because this group of players was not good enough. I'm going to do it my way. The problem is, Chris Drury is not doing it his way. He's half-assing it. And this also goes back to the point of why Drury has so many problems, and to why now he has to do this, PR damage control of basically bending to the player's knee and, accommodating them. The reason why is Drury does not know how to handle players. And the other problem is he's inconsistent, because go back to 2023 when the whole, locker room was basically, in one big shambles, and they all turned on Gerard Gallant. Trouba goes to Drury and say, oh, listen, we need some help over here, because Gallant's not letting us do our thing. They accommodated them, lost, and then go back and then go back to the conference final when Drury starts, trying to hold players accountable. They're, now they're saying, oh, what happened? We just got to the conference final. How could you not hold us accountable? And now he's basically scrambling, doing this, and now it's the reason why we look at these trades now. And the reason why Drury is, basically accommodating all these players is because he doesn't stick to one philosophy. The guy's all over the place. Again, if you're going to be consistent with how you handle players, players will respect you. They will say, okay, listen, I crossed the line. The problem is nobody respects Chris Drury. Nobody in the league, nobody in the locker room, absolutely nobody.
Yeah, man. You're bringing up Florida here a lot. We do this like for a reason, because the way they're built is so consistent with what you need to win a Stanley Cup. They're deep down the middle. They have scoring on the wings, and their defense is solid. Oh yeah, they have one of the better goalies in the net too. Bobrovsky makes a lot of money, but he gets the job done. So, how did they get those players? A lot of them they drafted. A lot of them were reclamation projects, which, you know what that means? They have good scouts. They have good pro scouts. They have good development. They have people that know what the fuck they're doing in that organization. What do we have? We have Tanner Glass and Jed Ortmeyer. Who are our pro scouts?
Could I also expand on that point quickly with that?
Please.
They also were able to acknowledge, because this is the part that people can't understand for whatever reason with why you go through a rebuild. The Florida Panthers stocked up their prospect pool, and they acknowledged, we have a logjam in net. We have Bobrovsky making all this money. We have Spencer Knight in the system. Devin Levi is expendable at this point. And they took Devin Levi in a first-round pick and said, you know what? We're going to get Sam Reinhart, because at the worst, he's a 60 to 70 point player. And at the best, we put him next to our best players, and all of a sudden he could be what Sam Reinhart ended up becoming, which was a 40 goal scorer. So those are the chances they took. They were able to acknowledge, and this is where Drury, on the other hand, he couldn't realize, he was too stubborn to acknowledge, Adam Fox and Jacob Trouba are clogging our right side for the foreseeable future. So one of Braden Schneider or Niels Lundqvist should be expendable. Pick your favorite, which obviously was Schneider, but he should have addressed this earlier and realized, okay, we're going to move Niels Lundqvist now to go help us get a Jack Eichel, or even if it's not Jack Eichel, find a star player available and see what you could get. Kravtsov's another one where if you really didn't like him that much, trade him while his value's high. You already have a logjam on the wings. So why are you not making the move to go get a top-end player? That's the difference as well.
His tenure is summarized by so much terrible GMing, no home run moves, no balls to the wall. Let me give my hardest swing and just go for it. None of those, not one. You know what it was? It was JT Miller, and that's so far after the fact, so late that it's so unnecessary, that move. And I think both teams lost this trade, because Edel's never playing again. I don't know where that first round pick is. That's in Pittsburgh. Mancini's not the
Kendall.
guy that we
Yeah,
think.
that's Ben Kindle.
In Pittsburgh, that was
Ben
traded for
Kindle.
Marcus Pedersen.
Right. This was a atrocious trade. I know you guys will rip on JT Miller, but that's your home run trade. That you waited so long. You waited 5 years to make that trade. That was it. That was the one. No balls to the wall moves. No, let my nuts hang kind of moves. I'm getting really graphic here, but this is what I mean. Like, that was a great point there, Evan, the Reinhart trade. I completely forgot about that. They traded for Reinhart when he was like rumored to be moved. They put their name in the hat. They put their hat in the ring, or whatever the saying is. and they got the guy, and he's probably the best second line center in the league, behind a guy that they already have in Barkov, Reinhart down the middle. Whoo, damn.
But you know, Joey, the funniest thing also with that is, even when Drury like makes a trade and he does get a good player in that said trade, he doesn't keep those players because, again, he traded for Frank Vetrano at the 2022 trade deadline. Couldn't keep him because the previous offseason he decided to trade for and then extend Barclay Goodrow to a 6-year, $3.6 million deal because he won 2 cups in Tampa. He was an integral part of their third line. Even on one of those playoff runs, the guy scored 1 goal. But why completely look at context? He traded for Tyler Mott. Worked very well on that fourth line in the 2022 playoffs. Oh, no, sorry. We can't keep him because in the past offseason, Tom Wilson completely destroyed us, and we need to bring in Ryan Reeves, who can't play hockey. But you know what? He's tough. He'll throw some hits. He'll keep guys in check. Yeah, give me a break. And then, even though he wasn't the main centerpiece of that trade in the Vladimir Tarasenko trade, but they got Niko Mikkola, and Niko Mikkola was pretty much everything the Rangers need for their second, third pair defenseman. A guy who can skate, move the puck, play solid defense, is tough, can actually play hockey the correct way. But no, sorry, we couldn't keep Niko Mikkola because we're choosing to use most of our cap space on guys that can't play hockey. Like, again, it's just a ton of roster mismanagement, a ton of, just poor, shitty executed trades. And then on top of that, Drury's cap management is just completely garbage.
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, the whole thing that matters in all of this, they spent how many years trying to find the Pavel Buchnevich replacement, and they burnt so many assets when they had the answer right in front of their damn face, who signed a sweetheart deal, but they didn't want to give him it because Tom Wilson bitched them around. Tom Wilson cross-checked Pavel Buchnevich, and then apparently they didn't want him around Igor Shesterkin anymore, and that was the whole other thing. I mean, it's just absolutely stupid. I mean, we should have known this whole thing was a disaster with Drury when he basically told you, Meek is a bad that's better than Jack Eichel. He basically told you that.
You know what all this is like? I keep saying this to myself, that this is the organizational philosophy of Chris Drury and the New York Rangers. This right here. It is literally this, and you cannot convince me otherwise. There are so many examples that we just went over just now. Zibanejad's better than Eichel. Yeah, okay. we are retooling. We're retooling, so we have to focus on our younger players. Oh yeah? Scratches Brendan Othman, scratches Scott Morrow. Yeah. We have to trade Buchnevich because we don't have enough cap space. So it's Lafreniere and Kakko's time in the top 6. Let's put them on the 4th line.
Yeah,
or the
Dryden
3rd
Hunt
line
in the fucking top 6.
Let's put Dryden Hunt in the top 6 and Barclay Goodrow. I'm gonna put Barclay Goodrow. Remember Gerard Gallant? I'll never forget this. Gerard Gallant. Oh, every day of the week, I'll put Barclay Goodrow above Vitaly Kravtsov at the end of a game if I'm in a tie game. Definitely. I remember that. I'm like, you fool, man. You're turning your young guys into depth scorers. You're not turning your guys into superstars. What do all these teams have? They have superstars. You need to build your players. You can't just buy your players. That you know why? Because then you'll last for like a year or two. because by the time they hit free agency, they're 28, 29, maybe 30 years old. So they only have like 1 to 3 years of good productive seasons left. And you have to sign them for 7 years. That means you're stuck with them for 4 more years at like half the rate that you were expecting them to. And you're not going to be able to move them because they all ask for no move and no trade clauses. So that's why you don't buy your players. You build them. You build them up. You need scouts. You need development. So all this stuff, Vince and Molly, really, honestly, I got to give it to them. They asked Drury about these questions, like, why haven't you hit on your draft picks? And you know what he says? He gives a non-answer. Isn't it
convenient they didn't post this on the YouTube channel? I mean, isn't that very
They never do that, though. They never do
because
that.
Chris Drury has to always hide because all this guy does is lie through his damn teeth, and it's so annoying. JD and Jeff Gordon, they would air on MSG Network, so their press conferences, like once a month, I feel like they would hold them, maybe even multiple times at least during the season. Chris Drury, I can't remember the last time a press conference was aired for him. Maybe when he was hired, and that's about it. I mean, you laid out the other lies that he's made. He lied about the reason he extended Will Borgen. Oh, we found our perfect right-handed defenseman for Keandre Miller. Great, now he's in Carolina. It's like all this guy does is lie, and it's just so annoying.
I want to read this. This is from Vince. Why does Drury think they've had such a low hit rate on draft picks and our changes needed on the development side? You guys are going to laugh your ass off at this answer. Quote, it's a deep dive into each department, scouting and development. We're taking a look at decisions we made, picks we've made, development stuff that we've done for different players. We have traded away a lot of picks and a few prospects along the way. We're excited with the ones that are here and that are playing for the Rangers now. I feel like we have a lot of good prospects that aren't in Hartford, that are playing in college or junior or Europe. We'll continue to find ways to have all of them reach their potential. That's not acknowledging the flaws in the development. That's not acknowledging what you have in your as far as executives go. That's not acknowledging your talent and your evaluation. That's completely dodging and dancing around the issue. These other teams have so many like successful players. Look at Tampa Bay, man. I use them all the time. They turn something into nothing like every day of the week, pretty much. And they know that they could continue to do it, so they're not worried about extending a guy like Darren Radish, who's been money this year, because they know they could make another Darren Radish. They're not worried about it. So when a guy like Will Cooley is here for the Rangers, we all love him because we don't see that player often anymore. That should be a player that's easy to develop. Other teams have plenty of those guys, and they get them pretty easily. It was like pulling teeth to get someone like Will Cooley on the Rangers. They couldn't develop a guy like that. A guy that actually plays hard every single game. That's all we're asking for. We don't get that anymore. We get guys that are slow on the puck, that don't play with any effort or urgency, that have low IQ. It's always the same deal with these players. And it's the same deal with the guy that they acquired in Greentree. They're saying the guy is bad away from the puck. So what does that tell you? His talent evaluation is off. Do you guys remember Juuso Parssinen when the Rangers traded for him? What they were saying? They said the Rangers liked him. They said the Rangers, why him? What is so good about that player? They signed him to over $1 million extension. Was it $1.1 million? Where is he? He's in Hartford. He didn't even last 2 months in the NHL. No one says anything about that. That tells me everything I need to know about where the Rangers are as an organization in terms of talent and evaluation. You have guys like Connor Sheary who haven't scored a single goal, like 2 goals in 2 calendar years, at least. You have them playing in your top 6. Taylor Radish, who could only score against the Capitals for some reason. You have them in your bottom 6. Why are you prioritizing these guys over guys like Othman, Berard, Sikora? You have young guys in your system. Why aren't you playing them? Because your development sucks. You'll never get the teams that Florida has, or Colorado has, or Tampa Bay has, because you're so focused on buying these players. But by the time you buy the players, they're going to be too old. And when it's time to move on from them, you put yourself in a corner. Because they all have no trade and no movement clauses. That's how we've gotten here.
And you're paying for what they did with other teams. That's the most important thing.
But see, this all goes back to the point that this is just typical Drury gaslighting, lying bullshit. This is all that it is, because no one with a straight face can tell me that this scouting and development team is doing a good job. Because look at the players who they've quote unquote developed. They've not surmounted it into anything. And again, it's such a bad look that, even Andrew Chelney mentioned this on Twitter. But he was speaking with reputable people around the Hartford Wolfpack, and again, this is not factoring in guys like Offman, Morrow, and Gabe Perreault and Brett Berard, who have come up, have like fluctuated from both the NHL roster and the AHL roster this year. But looking at the deeper prospects, no one is viewed on that Hartford Wolfpack player as being an impact NHLer in the future. And Drury's looking at me and telling me, he's like, oh, you should really be excited for the future because we have a ton of prospects coming. Really? Where are these prospects coming? Because and even he could point and look to the guys that are in college and they are maybe in the major juniors in Canada and over in Europe. Okay, Malcolm Spence. Okay, he's doing decently in Erie with the Erie Otters, but he was a second round pick at the end of the day. EJ Emery, the guy struggling with North Dakota, he couldn't even crack Team USA for the World Juniors last year. Oh, Artem Gonchar, because he's related to Stanley Cup champion Sergei Gonchar. Yippee fucking yee. Great fucking job, Christopher. Nice fucking draft pick you got there. Who else is there?
You.
Mikael Eriksson, that's another name. Like, I'm trying to remember who else. You said Emery Fortescue is the other one. I mean, at the end of the day, the other thing that matters about the context of this is what is the ceiling of these guys? The only one that I think has a ceiling to be anything other than a third pair defenseman / bottom six forward is Liam Greentree. And that's at most a guy that I view him in the same light as Will Cooley, where at best he's the sixth best player in your top six, and you can maybe get by with that. Like, that is at best, but probably realistically more third liner, because once again, Chris Drury, he doesn't know what a play driver is. He has no idea what that is. He brought in another guy with Greentree who's just a passenger, and it's obvious because Ilya Protas leaves his OHL team and all of a sudden the production dips. So
Nathan Aspinall, is that
Nathan
really?
Aspinall?
Yeah, Nathan Rico, Raul, all these other fucking idiots. I mean, seriously, but Joey, this even goes to the point like you brought up with like Will Cooley. Fine, Will Cooley, good NHLer, good middle six guy, more so a third liner, right? But here's the problem: it's like whenever the Rangers draft and develop a guy like Will Cooley, it's like celebrated that that they actually did something. Meanwhile, when you look around the NHL, other teams, they're developing and drafting like 5 to 6 different Will Cooleys. And then the problem with the Rangers is they draft Will Cooley. He actually has a breakout season. And then because their other, drafting and development is so piss poor that he's the only one that break through, they start elevating him to roles that he shouldn't be. Like, Will Cooley should not be a top 6 player. Will Cooley's role is a third line grinding, scoring player. But no, because your drafting and development is so piss poor that Cooley's the only one that actually made it through, you now have to actually elevate him to a role he shouldn't be with. They drafted Brennan Hoffman 5 years ago. The guy has 1 goal in 5 years at the NHL level. Alexi Lafreniere got paid and checked out. He's a bust. They flipped Capo Caco for Will Borgen. I mean, Gabe Perreault, fine, he might turn into something, but as far as like I'm watching one on a nightly basis, he's not really sticking out to me. And listen, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that, he's not really surrounded by, talented players. But still, his Gabe Perreault skating, which was always, a concern coming into the NHL level, again, it's showing that, he hasn't really worked on his skating. And the other different thing, like Evan brought up, Chris Drury doesn't know what a play driver is because Gabe Perreault, his other biggest fault, while he does have the hockey IQ, he was never a play driver. He was never a play driver for Boston College because those lines were mainly being dominated by guys like Ryan Leonard, James Higgins, Will Smith. And same applies for the USA junior team, when they were playing at the World Juniors. Like, Gabe Perreault was never this, what's it called? This play driving winger, that was creating all the stuff and being the main guy. He was always the supporting cast, which again, there's nothing wrong with being the supporting cast. Like, you do need players like that, but when are we ever going to draft and develop these guys that are actually play drivers because, like, again, if you want to build a Stanley Cup contender, you have to draft and develop these guys like Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid, Jason Robertson,
Well, we had
Matthew
Chris
Tkachuk.
Kreider.
You have to develop these guys on your own. You can't wait till free agency to sign them. It's not going to happen.
Even at least back in the day, like the 2010s Rangers, like all their forwards played the same way. They were able to develop them the same way. Like Callahan, like Hagelin,
Dubinsky,
Foss,
yeah.
like all those guys, like Stepan. You know what I'm talking about. And the defensemen too. They had pretty good development. McDonough turned out pretty well. Kevin Klein worked on his game Del Zotto didn't work out, but like they had Strawman, they had a great system in place with on the pro team. Once they got guys like Klein and Strawman, even John Moore had a little bit of a good run when he first got traded to the Rangers, but that's like all evaporated. It's not here anymore. It's gone.
That's also why this whole letter card being pulled is funny, because at least even with the first letter, like you could look at it and say, okay, the next wave of guys is potentially coming in the Buchneviches, and all the other prospects they had at the time. There's nothing here. There's nothing. Like back then, you could say Igor Shesterkin's on the way, but this, literally, what is on the way that is saving you? And the fact that Chris Kreider is considered a franchise great just tells you all you need to know. I mean, that's really the end of story there, that this team can't develop talent for shit. And until I see it from a McKenna or Stenberg, if they draft one of those two and have the luxury of it, until I see it from them, then I'm not going to believe that it's the case.
They're not. They lucked into two superstar potential players and they killed themselves. With how do you not develop one of those guys? You have 2 first overall picks in a New York team. That never happens. The Rangers, like in their 100 years, when's the last time they had a top 5 pick? Or a first or second overall pick? It's way before our parents were born, probably.
I think they only had the number 1 pick twice. Lafreniere was the one, and then the other guy was like in the 60s or something. And and the worst part is he didn't even crack the roster. He never played a game for the Rangers. So.
Oh my God! Of course, the organization is stuck. Let me read this other quote here. So this is from Vince. Why does Drury think a retool is feasible given the state of the Rangers, and how does he plan to pull it off? Here's his answer. Quote, I understand and appreciate the question. I'm not going to go player by player on our team or players we're going to target in the league. I think we have a lot of really good players at key positions. It has not worked out the way we had hoped. We're going to continue to look back at decisions we made and choices we make and try and make better ones. But I can tell you, I still believe in a lot of players in that room. We're going to try to build around some of them and try to keep pushing this thing forward. And as I said in the letter, try to be a contender as soon as we can. This is a whole lot of nothing once again. This is not
you don't want to publicly say your plan. Now you publicly don't want to say what you're doing.
Now you thank you. Yeah. None of this is acknowledging the faults that you have. None of this is acknowledging the position that you're in.
No,
you're
Joey.
Just saying that we're there because
Joey, it's injuries. It's you don't understand it. It's all the injuries' fault.
They have concepts of a plan.
Yeah, injuries. That's the reason. So when you say, "Oh, we believe in guys in that room," which guys? I need to know that. And he didn't. He's like, I'm not going to name names. I have a feeling he's gonna. Well, Shesterkin's already locked up. What is he gonna do? Is he gonna keep Miller and Zibanejad? Because right off the bat, right there, if you believe those two guys are your future center core down the middle, we're in for a long. How many years are on their deals? 5.
5. Yeah,
we're in for a long 5 years, guys.
How is he not able to comfortably say that he even if you don't we see David Stearns do it, where before he traded guys like Luis Angel Acuna, he'd be like, yeah, we believe in him. How could you not say, yeah, we believe in Othman, Perot, and we think these guys could make a huge impact, even though obviously we wouldn't believe it, but he couldn't drop names? What does that tell you?
I think Molly had one where she asked him about Lafreniere and Schneider, and that was pretty interesting. Brought him up by name, and I think he still danced around the question, which is insane. I don't know what Glenn Sather's teaching him, but he's obviously learning from the best. Like, I gotta find this. I'm looking at Molly's tweets because she did ask a couple of those too. Like, you can't be relying on guys like Zibanejad and Miller anymore. And how is Lafreniere still playing on the right wing?
I don't know.
What's
Carson's comment.
We have a plan. It is so incredible that the incredible plan people came and said, wow, it's incredible. It is the start of a series of culture changing plans. That's really good. That's really good.
It's just the main problem is that throughout the whole organization, it's just dysfunction. Nobody knows what the plan is. There is no plan. It was just, let's put out a bullshit PR letter because let's be honest, guys. The only reason that letter went out is because there were fire jury chants. If those fire jury chants never happened, there would have never been no letter. I will bet money on that. That letter would have never came out if there wasn't fire jury chants. It was the only reason they did it to save face. And again, it goes back, and again, this even goes beyond jury. This is a James Dolan problem because I've been saying this to myself the last couple of days. Go back to 2021. Because Dolan can say all this bullshit, that he wants success, he wants this, blah blah blah. The reason why James, I'm sorry, the reason why Jeff Gordon and John Davidson, well, yes, they had their faults, I'll admit that, but I thought they were doing at least a decent job. They were doing a lot better than whatever this ass clown is doing.
Yeah.
The only reason those two got fired, it wasn't because they missed the playoffs in 2021. It was because they took a public opposing to what James Dolan was saying against the whole Tom Wilson incident. That was the only reason. And if they didn't do it, those two would actually still be employed. But James Dolan got so scared, and he's like, these guys actually went against me? Can't have that. I need a yes man in charge. And this is why you have Chris Drury now, because Chris Drury goes down to the knee and says, yes, sir, to everything that James Dolan says. It's the only reason he's even remotely employed. Because, like I said, there is no one in the league as a general manager that could go to the conference final in 2024 and then in back-to-back years have arguably two of the worst seasons in franchise history where, say what you want, they underachieved to what we expected. Because at least last year we thought, okay, they maybe be a playoff team at best. They maybe be a second-round exit team. Completely missed the playoffs. They quit on, the whole roster quit. And then this season, it's like, okay, maybe they won't be as bad as what they were. They're the 31st team in terms of point percentage in the league this year. I mean, like, what are we doing? And there is no prospects coming up. Like, Drury could gaslight us about this. We believe in guys in this roster. Who do you believe? You're going to fix Alexis Lafreniere? Really? Because you haven't improved his skating the first 6 years. Also, yeah, you'll definitely improve his skating through year 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, on JT Miller, yeah, it's injuries. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
the guy stands in front of his. I don't know why my camera went out. I guess Drury got to me. But this guy stands in front of every single. He stands in front of the locker room every single time, and he's like, yeah. Guys, I don't really know what's going on. It sucks to lose, but yeah, I don't know what's going on. Really? This is your leadership group that you're depending on? Like, it's a joke.
I just announced that there's a big news here. The Yankees are bringing back Paul Goldschmidt.
Oh.
So they're bringing the band back together, too.
Well, too bad for them because the Mets are going to have a better year than them this season. Anyways, Evan, this is for you. So Molly tweeted this the other day. Rangers GM Chris Drury was asked for his assessment of Alexis Lafreniere and Braden Schneider. See, by name, this is what he said. I still, believe in them as players and as people. As I said, I'm not singling them out. I think there's been a number of areas in different spots where we've underachieved this year. I know they're continually working on their individual games, those two individual players, and trying to find ways to be more impactful. They're still young players, even though it feels like they've been around for a number of years now, but we're going to continue to work with them. We think they both have bright futures in this league, and I know Sully and his staff and me and my management staff are excited to have them here and keep trying to help them reach their potential. Is that what you were referring to? Something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, because at least I can at least appreciate good. Like, there's a difference between lying about stupidity and good lies, because obviously I've been ripping on Drury for lying the entire time. This is a good lie because if you're actually shopping Braden Schneider, which I still don't believe it because he loves him more than his own
No, I don't
children,
think he is too.
but if in the event they actually are shopping Schneider, that's a good way to sell. Yeah, we're not looking to move him. We're comfortable with having him. We think that we could get more out of him. But the problem is that I don't believe they're actually going to move him. So, and I think that what Chris Drury said is the truth there, and that's the part that's frustrating.
You could get so much if you trade Schneider right now.
Mhm,
I really, really wanted them to package him with Panarin. I really wanted that. That would have been the best thing the Rangers could have done. I swear. Any team would love to have Schneider. I think you could have with how competitive the league is this year, I believe you could have as many teams that were interested in Panarin in on Schneider. And that's a lot. Pretty much the entire league. Like all these GMs, they blow their load when they see a defenseman that's big and could hit and move the puck. Move the puck. You know? Like that's what they do. They love those kinds of defensemen. And then Rasmus Anderson, who everybody knew was getting traded from Calgary, because why would they keep him when they're at the bottom of the league? Everyone knew he was getting traded. He gets a haul. What a great trade for Calgary that was. So you mean to tell me if you want to retool Chris Drury, look at that, please open your eyes and look at that trade. Look at that trade. And how do you say to yourself, nah, I think Schneider's more valuable than all that stuff?
But this is the problem. And it's like what we've been saying. Drury overplays his hand, and he doesn't know when it's the correct time to move on from guys. Because, like I said, Kreider should have been moved on from earlier. Panarin should have been moved on from earlier. Braden Schneider should be moved right now. Like you said, you can get a first-round pick for him because, you know, NHL GMs love that kind of defenseman for whatever reason. I mean, Joey, you said like he moves the puck. I mean, yeah, he does move the puck. He gives it to the other team, but you know he does move the puck theoretically.
Yeah.
But it's just like, again, you could get a first round pick for Braden Schneider. Nah, we'll keep him. We'll wait till his value completely diminishes, and then we'll flip him for like a future 5th round pick. Will Borgen last year. Say what you want about the trade for with him and Capo Caco, but you could have actually gotten something decent for Will Borgen, because for those 17 games, he actually was playing well, and teams are always desperate to get at least, you know, a competent right-handed defenseman. Again, you could have gotten a first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick at best, a high-end second-round pick. Nope, Drury goes, you know what? I'm going to extend him. I'm going to give him 5 years, $4.1 million, and trade protection because, yeah, I will. He fits our culture. He's the next in a series of culture-changing moves, 100%.
That's definitely one of those guys that's staying on the team for sure.
And then the other thing, right? Because like whether you want to say retool, rebuild, realistically, this team needs a rebuild. But another guy, and I get it, he has trade protection, but if the Rangers really want to do this correct, they should move on from Mika Zibanejad right now. Because like I said, while he does have trade protection, he's actually having a decent year. And compared to what he's been having the last couple of years, you could actually get something good for him. Because currently, his value is at a high right now. Not an all-time high because, you know, 2020 Mika, that was like all-time peak value for him. But at least his value has somewhat recuperated over from where it was the last 2 years. You could get a first-round pick, a decent prospect for Mika Zibanejad. But nah, we'll keep him because we view him as, you know, an integral part of the core, even though the guy doesn't show up come playoff time. But, you know, that doesn't matter. And then naturally, they'll wait till his value diminishes, and then eventually they'll trade him for like a 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, and like a shitty, you know, B tier level prospect. This is what Chris Drury does. He doesn't know when to move on from guys at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Man. We picked apart so much here. One last thing. Asked about the timeline in mind to be contending again. Drury said, I think there's a difference in a retool and a rebuild. As we said in the letter, it is a retool. We're certainly not going to sit here and put a timeline on it right now. We're going to try to do everything we can to get back to being a contending team as quickly as we can. We have identified and continue to identify players that we want here and want to stay here and go forward and build around and move forward with. Are you going to sign Alex Tuck to a lifelong extension in the offseason?
Yes.
You're going to sign Kiefer Sherwood to a lifelong
Mhm.
This is what I mean. You got to stop doing this. You have to. I love Gavrikov. I think he's a great player. I was banging the drum years ago for the Rangers to trade for this guy. I don't know if you guys remember that. Years ago, when he was on Columbus, I was saying, that's the guy. That's the guy to play with Fox. And no, they just let him walk. Nope, didn't go out to acquire him. Let's wait until he gets to free agency. And it's always the same thing with the New York sports teams. Let's wait until the guy hits free agency. Never swing big. I hate that. I hate that. Put your chips in. Your team's competitive. Go for it. Take the swing. If you fail, so what? At least you gave us a memorable team. You know what I mean? Like, I swear to God, I really think that Drury was looking at that Eichel trade and was like, you know what? In 5 years, I'm gonna get him. I swear to God. I swear he was thinking like, okay, he's gonna be a free agent in 5 years. Let me save my assets because in 5 years we're gonna be amazing, and then we could trade those assets for even more stuff. And then that never happened because our development sucks. So now we have nothing and we just suck. And it's a whole bunch of sucking. And that's it. That's all we'll ever do is suck. The trade for Eichel, you could have went like a first or two firsts, Zibanejad and Nils Lundqvist. There you go. That could have been your trade. You could have traded Buchnevich in that trade. Nothing. That was the beginning of the end right there. Like, man, that I can't tell you how frustrating that one trade that they should have had. How that one trade right from the beginning, even though they had the 2 conference finals runs, good regular seasons, competitive teams, they could have been so much better for so much longer if they had just made that investment. If they had just sucked it up and gotten rid of one of the fan favorites.
They wouldn't have even had to. Those guys were prospects that they had to give up at the time.
They could have done. They could they could have just done it with prospects. What are you holding on to them for?
I believe the only roster player I believe that maybe would have been in the deal was Hedel. I keep forgetting, but it might have been Hedel, Kravtsov, Lundqvist, and a first.
Yeah.
That was the asking price, if I'm not mistaken.
Why?
And
look at
where all of them are now.
Man, like, I'm definitely guilty of not wanting to trade too many of the prospects, but with hindsight, you 10 times out of 10 you make that trade.
Yeah, and also the other problem with that is it's not like because it will, because people compare it like, with the Eichel and the Jake Gensel, while they still kind of revolve around the same kind of idea, but there were 2 different trade ideas. Because when you look at Jake Gensel, he was 29, about to enter free agency. But when you looked at Jack Eichel, the guy was 24 years old. He was still a couple years away from his prime, and he was still a couple years away from even entering free agency. So at the time, it made sense to give up, those prospects because, again, you don't know if those prospects are going to develop, and we know at this franchise, they never develop into anything. And still, you're getting a guy in Jack Eichel who's 24 years old, who already at the time was considered one of the better centers around the league, and you had control over him for like the next 4, 5, 6 years. Like, you can't tell me that it didn't make sense to trade Jack Eichel. But, people say, oh, they had Mika Zibanejad. Yes, because Mika Zibanejad was ever on the same level as Jack Eichel. I mean, give me a break.
And
you could have had Zibanejad and Eichel. That could have been a lethal 1-2 punch down the middle with how Zibanejad was scoring.
Mika would have been a far better 2C, and it would have made it tougher for other coaches to match up against. But it also goes back to the point that I made where they couldn't realize we already have a logjam to begin with, so the prospect should be expendable because you already had your top 6 figured out outside of your center position because you had Mika there, you had Panarin, you had Kreider, you had Buchnevich at the time. Like, that could have been the last piece, but you didn't want to move Kravtsov, Hedel, and Lundqvist.
You wanted to invest your money in Barclay Goodrow, Ryan Reeves, and Patrick Nemeth. Those 3 guys. You could have said, to hell with those guys. We're gonna put AHL hacks and hosers in there. We'll put Who are our AHL guys at the time? I can't even remember. I can't like Kevin Rooney.
Yeah, Rooney.
God, yeah.
You could have you could have went with
Dryden
Dryden Hunt.
Hunt.
Like you
Dryden
could have
Hunt.
gone with these AHL fodder. You didn't need to spend millions of dollars to put guys on your fourth line. Like you could have had, and then in a few years, or the next year, you could have signed Trocheck and Eichel, Zibanejad, Trocheck down the middle. Dude, that is nasty. Why? Why couldn't we get that?
And the other thing that also needs to be mentioned too, like just to go back to the Buchnevich thing that I can't believe we didn't even talk about, is part of when Buchnevich got moved, all of us thought this has to mean they're getting Eichel. Like that, this has to mean they're getting Eichel.
Another move was coming.
And could you imagine? And again, I don't want to sit here and act like Lafreniere would have lived up to the hype that he would have. But you put Lafreniere in a situation where he's next to Jack Eichel instead of Mika Zibanejad or Ryan Strome, and then early on next to whoever was playing center on the fourth line with him, Ryan Carpenter. Maybe Lafreniere puts up a couple 70-point seasons, and we're looking at this and saying, all right, he's a good complementary winger. It's not what we hope for, where he's putting up, point per game seasons, 90-point seasons, but he's a good complementary piece to Jack Eichel. Like, we could have looked at things so much differently.
You could have had Lafreniere, Eichel, and Kakko on the top line. You could have had Kreider, Zibanejad, and Buchnevich on the second line.
Panarin.
Oh, my goodness. We had Panarin.
Yeah,
oh my God!
That's what I'm saying. If you move on for Buchnevich, you could have
or Kreider. Like
what I would have done. I mean, even though I hated Kreider and Mika playing together, if you had that top line though of Panarin, Eichel, and Lafreniere, and then your second line was Kakko, Zibanejad, Kreider, like you still could have messed around with that top six and plug and play to find something. Like
that still would have been good.
Would have worked.
If you developed your guys, properly, you gave them the ice time instead of force feeding minutes to Barkley, Goudreau, and Dryden Hunt, and so there were a couple times they put Ryan Reeves up on the first
Jimmy
line.
Jimmy
VC. Always with the AHL hacks and hosers that they give the first line minutes to. Why? It doesn't make sense.
Remember 2021? We were playing Colin Blackwell next to Panarin and Ryan Strome.
Okay, well, Blackwell was like he disguised it because he was he seemed like he fit in a little bit more than those other guys. But yeah, Blackwell was definitely a bottom sixer. He was playing out of. See, they did the same. They're doing the same thing with Will Cooley that they did with Blackwell right now, where they're force feeding him minutes. That's where you're losing me. Like Cooley's a great player as a third or fourth liner. Don't put him in the top six. Give those minutes to Perreault and Othman. Othman's too far gone, but Perreault, my point still stands. Where is Berard? Why isn't he playing?
Well, Taylor Rash needs to play.
Yeah, Radish needs to play. Wow, yeah, we got to play that old guy. Why?
Anton Bleed needs to play.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Anton Bleed. Oh, whatever are we going to do if Anton Bleed doesn't play a hockey game?
Lorio needs to play. We just picked him up off waivers.
Yeah, Vinny Iorio, yeah.
Yeah, Iorio, yeah, whatever his name is. I don't care.
I think he's Italian. Don't disrespect my guy like that.
I was thinking of the tweet yesterday about him.
Hey.
What tweet?
I'll tell you after the stream.
Don't worry, we'll have a few guys next year on PTOs being the top six. Yeah. I'm going to do it again. Where is it?
Yeah. But of course, it won't be like the good PTO guys. It won't be the guys like, like Danton Heinen or Joel Kiviranta.
Adam Ernie, welcome back.
Yeah, we'll get the Adam Ernies of the world.
I remember when Adam Ernie was a good prospect in like NHL 13 or 14. Been a long time. Been a long time since those games. So yeah.
If you guys want to feel better, Matt Dumba's a free agent this year.
Oh my God! Wow. Let's
Radko Gudas is a free agent this offseason.
$5 million contract.
Hey, Radko Gudas, he's a captain. He plays a no BS attitude hockey.
He plays physical. Yeah, we like him. He's big.
Jamie Alexiak, we wanted him a few years ago potentially as a complimentary piece for the blue line.
Oh my god.
Maybe they'll get him. Maybe they'll give him a little 6.55 and here we go.
Now they're gonna go get Alex Tuck. Like this is what they needed years ago.
Well, these guys are on
They don't
friendly
need him
contract.
now.
Yeah, but Drury's always late to the party, so.
Yeah. Well,
you know what? He's playing chess and not checkers. He's just gonna bring Susie back in the offseason. We got a free 3rd-round pick.
you mean the one that we lost?
Yeah, we got a worse third round. We got a worse 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, but we gotta do blue team or girl math here. So like, you basically got a free 3rd-round pick.
All right, I'm livid. I got everything I needed out, dude. I got it. I got everything out. I am the most frustrated I've ever been as a Rangers fan is like this week. This is so mind-numbingly bad. The team itself, I can't watch. It's legit sad because there's no exciting players. No one tries. No one's playing their ass off. At least in 2018 and 2019, they were young, and they had players that I wanted to see play. After they got rid of everybody in 2017, 2018, they had guys that that they acquired, like roster-ready players that I wanted to see and develop. At least you had that. At least you still had Lundqvist, right?
No,
you don't have anybody now. Who the frick do you have now?
We got JT Miller. What are you talking about, Joey? Yeah! No, but like, the difference is like when you compare this to 2018-19, even though it didn't work out, at least 2018-19, there was at least a semblance of a plan. At least like with Gordon and like JD to a certain extent, you could at least trust them.
No, there was a plan with those guys.
No, that's what I'm saying. At least there was a semblance of a plan. Yeah. But with this, there is no plan. It's like we go in one direction, then it's another direction, then this direction. It's like it's a whole lot of dysfunction, just completely blurred into each other because let's just try things. Like, and again, nobody, any fan with a brain doesn't believe any of the bullshit PR driven narratives that the what's it called that the reporters are spewing out like Vincent Molly. No one believes it. Like. Because at the end of the day, when we're looking at this in 9-10 years, the Rangers will not be good. Like, sure, maybe they might magically sneak one playoff appearance in there. They're not doing anything over the next decade. We're screwed with the type of contracts we're locked into. And even by some miracle, even if Chris Drury, let's say we wake up tomorrow and the miracle happens, Drury gets fired, whoever the next GM comes in, they have so much work to do because of the cap mismanagement, because the amount of poor long-term contracts being signed, the fact that our prospect system is so bleak and so barren. It's going to take at least a decade to even replenish it to where a logical, reliable NHL team and franchise should be. So like people are not understanding this. Like, we are royally fucked. And this is just the beginning of it. So people strap in and enjoy, because this is only the first in a series of, shitty seasons that are upcoming.
We also have to rely on Dolan to pick the right guy if he actually did by some miracle fire Drury, which isn't happening. And the other thing,
Sader's corpse.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. Or he'll bring Shanahan in, more nepotism.
Kevin Adams.
The other thing that I was going to say as well, fuck, I had a thought in mind. I had a thought.
A thought? You should create a Twitter thread.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say before that the other problem in all of this is what we talked about with the Igor contract, that now Igor's going to steal them a couple of wins throughout the next few years to where you're not going to be bad enough to get the top picks potentially. Like, that's the other problem here. Yeah. As much as the roster sucks, Igor...
That part I'm not as worried about, because it's all random, the lottery. It's all random. You never know.
True, but what if Igor keeps them out of that bottom 10 to where they can't win the top pick? Plus, you also do have the rule now where you can't win the lottery more than twice in a 5-year window. So,
and I mean, look, even compared to last year, if the Rangers just lose one game against the Islanders, Matthew Schaefer might be a Ranger. Now, whether they develop him or not, that's another story. But Schaefer could have been a Ranger if they just lost one more extra game.
Yeah, that game is the Islanders. If they lost that game, then
yeah,
Nah,
He was an Islander.
Kathy Hochul had
Or a
it out
Ranger.
for the. Nah, Kathy Hochul had it out for Bettman that year. Like he was an Islander no matter what.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, I have nothing more to add here. I am wiped. I got everything out. Lots of rants on this episode. Thank you to everybody who tuned in to listen to this episode. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment down below. Go check out Matt and Evan's YouTube channel, Rangers Central. Give them a like and a follow.
Mets
Follow
Central
them on
too.
Twitter,
Baseballs.
follow them Instagram, follow us everywhere. My last words, let's go Mets. Bye, guys.